What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Sick Podcast, Talking Titans. I'm joined by Vinny tonight. Also, we have a special guest in Draft Vogel, and we're going to break down the Titans quarterback room since we have Ryan Tannehill on the back burner. So, Sammy, start us up.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Talking Titans.
Ladies and gentlemen, 94 yards. Touchdown, Titans. He is the baddest man in the NFL, and he just took her to the house.
The sickest Tennessee Titans podcast.
Sick!
It's gonna be sick.
All right, guys, welcome back. It's just me and Vinny tonight. Sal is under the weather, so we're going to hold it down, and we're going to break down quarterbacks. I wasn't here last week against the Ravens, so we have one of our own draft experts on the podcast. He is part of the sick team as well at Draft Vogel. So, John, Sammy, bring him in. What's up, John? How you doing, buddy?
I'm great, man.
Long time no see, huh?
Yeah, this is before the draft, right?
Yeah, just about the combine issue, and you just got back from what was it? No, not the combine. We went to Senior Bowl. Yeah.
And my worst nightmare was taking Levis, and here we are, maybe a week away from starting him. So shout out our guy, John Vogel. He is the network's NFL draft guy. Go to him for all things NFL draft. But Jared, you weren't here last week, and me and Sal went in on our Titans after that Ravens game. Give us your thoughts on what transpired in London.
Just real quick, I mean, before we get into the quarterbacks with John, and I'm going to talk about it after, we release John from the podcast, but really quick, I mean, this team is in shambles right now, in my opinion. You've seen what Jeffrey Simmons has been saying in the locker room. I really wanted to get one of the Titans reporters on, but they're very busy at the moment. I want to see what that feel is in the locker room because to me, it's lost at 2-4 right now. This team has a lot of needs and answers that they have to answer to after the bye, quarterback being one of them. That's why we have John on to talk about that. So, I mean, it was just a miserable loss, in my opinion, over the pond. We got there Thursday. I mean, we left Thursday, landed there Friday. We played like shit. You can't blame that on leaving later on in the week like the Ravens did. But like I said, I want to tackle the quarterbacks, man. John's here. I'm gonna get into the game after John, because John doesn't need to hear that spiel that we're gonna give, and bash the Titans after that. But John, Ryan Tannehill obviously got hurt in this game. He's got another ankle problem, lingering with the same ankle as last year. We have Will Levis, Vinny's boy, and Malik Willis on the roster too as well. If you were going into this game against the Atlanta Falcons at home, who are you going to start to give us that spark that we need to go for the rest of the way?
It is funny because we were talking right before we got started, but I think I disagree with you guys a little bit on Levis. I know that you traded up to get him. You went to the beginning of the second round. You made the move to get him. And you're hoping that he's going to develop into the right type of player. But I think that when you look at the training camp, right, where he had the injury, kind of stunted him a little bit with his knowledge and working with the team, I think that you have to go with Malik Willis personally. But that's what I would do. And I think that Malik has a little bit of a dynamic aspect that he adds with his legs. I think that if you can go shotgun a little bit more, get Tyjae Spears involved a little bit more with the run game, you can really start to open that up for Malik to move outside the pocket and start to make some of those throws that he does usually pretty well. So that's what I would do personally. I think that I know that there's not a lot of confidence in Malik in the Tennessee facility because I heard all about it. So, that's kind of that's what I would do. But I'm also not there at practice every day.
So the only thing that I'm going to have to disagree with you on that is, I mean, we've seen a lot of Malik Willis last year with Ryan Tannehill's injury. I mean, it was great, but our defense kept us in games, especially against that Chiefs game. I mean, he had some really good throws in that Chiefs game to bring us, close to a victory. And he comes into the game against the Ravens and gets sacked 4 times. So I understand. Like, I mean, there's a video floating around of Malik Willis scrambling to the sideline with like a minute left with no timeouts, and he tries to make a play. Just get out of bounds, reset yourself. I understand that, but sacked 4 times. You got to be able to throw the ball away at least, or use your legs to move around the pocket. You can't just stand there like a statue like Ryan Tannehill does. That's another reason why we don't want Ryan Tannehill. We want the mobility at quarterback. So I thought, it was going to give us a more of an advantage with him. Levis is kind of, is Levis a scrambler too? I mean, if you're the draft expert, how would you compare the both of them mobility wise?
Yeah, Levis, when he was at Penn State, was exclusively a running quarterback.
Yep.
And when he was entering I think his first year at Kentucky, and we saw the preseason hype on the SEC side of stuff where they were like, "Oh, this guy's legit. Blah, blah, blah. He might be the best quarterback in the SEC." I kind of laughed at it because I'd seen his Penn State stuff, but you didn't see a lot of that the last couple of years at Kentucky. You didn't see a lot of the scrambling ability. He didn't really go to it. He focused more on throwing. So, and then when he was at Penn State, he wasn't a dynamic runner like we saw Malik was when he was at Liberty. But the first thing I'd say to the Ravens game, because I watched that one too, it was in the morning, they were in London, is I think that when you are a different type of quarterback than your starter, I mean, Tannehill's a big, tall guy. He's going to try to work from the pocket. He's a former wide receiver he's not as mobile as he used to be, but he does have it. I mean, we saw it the triple option against the Chargers that they ran for a touchdown. That was a pretty cool little design. It was totally unexpected.
Yeah,
but
for real.
But like that's the thing is, that's a totally different type of skill set. And so when you're putting, your play sheet together and you're getting your game plan ready, you're only going to use maybe 20 to 30% of what's in your playbook in a game. And that's just because of the limited number of plays. You want to be able to use different plays throughout the entire year. And because of that, I think that Malik steps into a game plan that's set up for Ryan Tannehill. And when you're a 6-foot quarterback trying to play a 6'5" pocket, type game plan, that's not your game. You're going to struggle like that. And I think that's where a lot of those sacks came from. So what you really need to do is you need to try to get him out of the pocket a little bit more, try to move the pocket at times, give him opportunities to throw, on the move, because that's one of the things that he does well. The bootlegs work really well. So you got to be able to get the run game going. We were saying Derrick Henry's 70% of what he used to be. At this point, we know that he's a fading star. That's the fact of the matter. He's still a very good running back by the NFL standards because he's 6'3", he's 245, 250, whatever he is. He's basically David Njoku playing running back. If you watch those two run, they look, if you put a Titans uniform on David Njoku, you might think it's Derrick Henry. When you look at, and then you got Tyjae Spears now too, and Tyjae's a very solid zone run running back himself. Has incredible field vision, really great contact balance, and he's a great receiver out of the backfield. So that's why you've seen his usage increase throughout the season so far. I think if you get them running up the middle and you use both those running backs and you set up the play action, that's going to open up Malik Willis's game.
Yeah.
So, question I have for you. Sorry, I almost cut you off. Couple questions for you. Now, I know you said they had Malik in there, 6-foot quarterback playing a 6'4" quarterback's game plan, but wouldn't you think a coaching staff would have something lying in contingent for a situation like that, where the starter gets hurt and the backup comes in? Shouldn't there be some part of that play sheet that's dedicated towards maybe your backup and what his game is predicated off of? And if the Titans did not do that, then how do you feel about this coaching staff as a general is what I wanted to allude to. If they're not intelligent enough to, give Malik, call plays for him that he could run, what's that say about the coaching staff? Because there's been a lot of frustration lately. Vrabel's name is starting to come up more and more each week. I mean, from week 1 to now, he went from he'll be here for a long time to, some Titans fans are done with him. Offensive coordinator. I mean, we haven't scored over 30 points in 2 years. Tim Kelly's looking a lot like Todd Downing. We're failing to even approach 20 points a game. So, my question is to you, does an offensive coordinator or head coach put something in for a backup should the starter go down? And if not, if the Titans didn't do that, then what's that say about their coaching staff? And how do you feel about it from your perspective? If you were a Titans fan, would your patience be wearing as thin as some of ours when it comes to Vrabel and such?
So the first thing is the first part of that question. Yeah, you're going to have a few things that you're going to have you might have a package of plays designed for Malik in special situations. But it's not so much about the play calling at that point. It's the game plan. And you got to get the other 10 guys on board with that. And that's very difficult to do in the middle of a game. That's why when you hear a lot of analysts and they talk about this guy came in, middle of the game, led them to a comeback win, that's super impressive. That's why. Because you have to shift when you have two different types of quarterbacks like that, you have to shift from one type of offense to a completely different type. And that's a whole team type atmosphere, team decision that's made. And that's not something that you drill a lot in practice because, you're going to run maybe on Thursdays or Fridays, you're going to run through, hey, contingency plan, if he goes down, we're going to have these reps. But it's not something you're practicing consistently because you just don't have the time for it. So that's why I'm saying, let's wait. Let's see what they do this week next week when they've got a couple weeks to come up with something and say, whoever the starting quarterback is, we're going to design and set him up for success to what he does well. And I think Vrabel's throughout his career, regardless of who's been in there, Downing, Arthur Smith, all of those guys, I think that they've done a pretty good job with that while trying to stay true to their identity, which is run the ball. The second part of that question is if I'm a Titans fan, you guys know I'm in Nashville, so I'm right here in the thick of it. I get all the Titan games are on my TV on Sunday. I'm seeing all the same stuff you guys are. I'm down here. I'm hearing it. So I think the feeling in the building right now, and this is I was at the MTSU Colorado State game. There was a Titan scout there I knew, and we were talking about it. They felt like going into that third game, they should be 2-0. I think that was when that week was. Yeah, they should be 2-0. About to be 3-0.
Yeah.
Because of the way that Saints game had gone, there was still a lot of confidence. In that sense, I think Vrabel is a top coach in the league. Period. He's a great situational guy. He's a great motivator, and it's the growing pains that you're seeing right now from the first year of a brand new general manager that's in there. Now he's coming from San Francisco and Ron Carthen, so now you've got to get everybody set up on that, which is he's going to have a different way that he's going to want to build the roster. That's why you're seeing Taylor Lewan leave. He doesn't fit what they want to do anymore. That's why you're seeing these guys out, being able to walk out of the building and then bringing in new guys. It's going to take another year before they really have the personnel that they want. And they're stuck with this quarterback that the previous regime took in the third round that nobody really seems to like. And so you go get your guy in the second that you think that he could be a solid guy for us if he develops in Levis. So I think he's safe for now. I think that he's probably got an additional year. He may have to make some changes to the rest of the coaching staff. Maybe your offensive coordinator this year, maybe Kelly leaves and maybe he's gone at the end of the year, and you're going to elevate somebody like Charles London, who had a lot of success in Atlanta and was an offensive coordinator at the Senior Bowl this year. So maybe that's a change that's coming down the line. I don't think Vrabel's particularly there. I just think that this is the typical growing pains that you're seeing from a brand new regime coming in, and I don't think that the Titans are going to let one of the best coaches they've had in a long time out of the building because of a bad 18 to 20 game stretch.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm one of those guys too that leans I'm a little more loyal towards him. I saw what he did for our franchise, but it's hard not to get frustrated when you look at the record over the last 13 games. I think we're at 2-11, and I think a lot of Titans fans are just, why haven't we benched Tannehill earlier? Why is Vrabel not taking more responsibility? It seemed like he was just, stubborn, to the point where it was frustrating, where he didn't want to change, has this blind loyalty towards Tannehill, but you brought up Tyjae Spears earlier. You brought up Derrick Henry. Do you feel as though that there's any truth to the rumor that he could be traded? And if he is traded, do you think Tyjae is capable of being a true blue number one running back?
So I don't think that you're going to find a trade partner for Derrick Henry right now. Not at the price that the Titans are going to want to give him up for.
Which would be what? Like a third or fourth?
Yeah, it's got to be a low day 2, early day 3. And with the contract that Derrick Henry has right now, I can't see anybody wanting to make sure that to spend that money there. Not with the player that they're getting right now. So I think that there may be inquiries. They might shop around a little bit and see if they can garner any interest. I don't think they're going to find any. Running back right now, for the most part, is I don't want to say this in a bad way, but it's a replaceable position. Even when you've got a guy that's different like Henry, it's very hard to move a running back around. We saw it this offseason with Saquon struggling to get his contract. Josh Jacobs wasn't with the Raiders for a long time. Tony Pollard was even upset, and he got franchise tagged by the Cowboys. They let Ezekiel Elliott walk out of that building. And then Dalvin Cook went unsigned until August, and that's one of the best running backs in the league. Yeah. So again, it just kind of comes down to there's not a lot of interest in running back. So while they may shop around, I don't think that they're going to find much interest. As for Tyjae, to me, Tyjae is one of the best running backs I've ever looked at on tape when he was coming out of college. He is a complete running back at 5'9" and 200 pounds, which is not a typical size that you look for when you talk about a complete running back. But when you look at his skill set, as I mentioned, he's a really good zone runner. He's got great field vision. He's an excellent receiver. And I'll tell you guys, when I was at the Senior Bowl, I was sitting there with another scout, and I saw Tyjae lining up in a pass protection rep with Aubrey Miller, who's a 6'2", 240-pound linebacker. And I nudged, and I was like, dude, you got to watch this. And Tyjae came right up on that rep, bam, knocks Aubrey Miller on his ass. And I said, look, see? And he's freaking out. He's like, he can do that? I'm like, dude, it's on tape. He's a great pass protector, too. So when you've got a guy that can do all three facets of the running game that you ask a running back to do, that makes you a very valuable player. And that's why you've seen his usage increase over the season, because you can line him up in the slot and he can run routes. You can run him between the tackles, and he finds ways through it. I mean, if you go back and look at him, he went on this crazy 7-game stretch at the end of his college career where he ran for 100 yards every game, and a lot of them were 150, and including an over 200-yard performance against USC in the Cotton Bowl. They were 4 touchdowns down, and Tyjae really scored 3 touchdowns to get them back in it, and they win the game outright. So when you look at like his body of work, he can be a complete running back. I think that's why the Titans were excited to take him in the 3rd. I was almost surprised he lasted that long. But again, that's one of those positions that we're going to push you down the board a little bit. But he's a legit running back. And if you have to get to a point where Derek is either hurt or he's not there, Tyjae is going to be able to pick up that load. And you've got, Julius Chestnut, and I think there's somebody else in that room that can help him carry the load so that you keep him fresh and he can maintain his usage throughout the rest of the offense.
John, last question before we go. You said you're really good friends with Charles London, and you know him pretty well. He is obviously the pass game coordinator for the Titans. If our fans have no idea who that was, and if you don't, I don't know where the hell you are, if you're living under a rock or not. But who do you think was going to benefit more now going forward as in the quarterback room? You think it can be more of Will Levis, understanding what he's trying to say, or you think it's going to be more Malik Willis? And how does his concept fit both of those quarterbacks?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say I'm great friends with him, but I know him. Let's put it that way. Because I don't need him to run into him at a All-Star game or the Combine, and he go, what are you saying on that podcast? No. Like, I know him decently well, but he's a guy he's really smart, and he can work with a lot of different types of quarterbacks. When you look at Atlanta, when he was there, he worked with Matt Ryan, he worked with Marcus Mariota, he worked with Desmond Ridder, and he talked about, Josh Rosen and Felipe Franks. Those are very different types of quarterbacks across the board when you look at what their skill sets present. So he's just one of these guys that can work with a lot of different schemes and different concepts and just try to find ways to get the quarterback to be comfortable. I think that when you look at Malik Willis, this is a guy that he needs to be outside the pocket, which is probably why the Titans don't like him too much. Because he's a playmaker. He wants to take shots down the field. He's got a really good arm, and he's going to take those shots when they open up. I think that they've asked him to stifle that back a little bit and just play in the offense, and I think that's where a lot of the frustration comes from. With Levis, you got another gunslinger mentality, a guy that wants to push the ball down the field. I know that when he was coming out, he drew comparisons to like a smaller version of Josh Allen. I don't know about all of that, but he's got a good arm too.
He's certainly got to be like Josh Allen for us.
Basically.
Yeah.
He's only 6'2", 220, I think. So that's a little bit harder to replicate, when you've got a guy like Allen who's 6'5" and 245 and can, steamroll some people. But what they're going to try to do, I think, if it's Malik, you're going to run bootleg. You're going to run different things to try to get him outside the pocket and give him level. It's called levels. So it's a concept where you've got route runners at different levels. You're looking to see how the defense reacts, and you have to be able to layer the throws there. Outside of that, when you get to Levis, it's a little bit more of a pocket passer, but again, a guy that's more comfortable outside of the pocket. He's going to run the offense a little bit more than Willis is on time. He's a little bit better with timing concepts and things like that, but again, he wants to take risks. He wants to push the ball down the field, and you got to hope that you got the playmakers. D hopped out there. Treylon Burks has not quite lived up to the expectations that everybody's wanted him to.
Nope.
And I think that when you're looking at the number 3 and it's a toss-up between Chris Moore and Nick Hakeem Westbrook, you got to sit there and kind of go, man, we need an upgrade at 3 right now because we need somebody that can be a dynamic slot, and we just don't have that right now. We got flashes.
Respect on his name. And Nick Westbrook Akenya, not Akenya Westbrook.
My bad. I'm sorry.
My receiver 1 right now, man. That's Jared's boy.
He's making me eat my words because Treylon Burks is not him right now.
I'm sorry though. Go ahead. I had to get that in there.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I messed his name up. So, but yeah, so that's good. But no, I think you're looking at that right now. And you're thinking we need to get a dynamic slot in here. And one of the things that you're seeing teams do right now, a lot of NFL teams, is they have got a big slot and they got a little slot. A big slot, I think Chig Okonkwo could fit that really well. He's really more of a receiver. I mean, he can block in line, but he's more of a receiver. You get him in space. He can do some things from there. And then when you talk about little slots, I mean, they're across the league right now. Wes Welker was the picture-perfect little slot for years and years in New England. He made that a position that teams had to start adding to their rosters. Yep. And so, like in this past draft, Zay Flowers was a great example of a little slot. We've seen in Houston, the division rivals, Tank Dell has had a really good year. Guys like that are really quick and dynamic route runners in space, that when they can get off a press release and then just beat somebody underneath, that's another level that they don't have right now. And I think that that's what they're going to probably look at adding, especially when you go back and you look at what what the 49ers did with their roster construction. They've got speed, they've got run after catch ability, and they've got the little slot guys that they can run all over the place too. So I think that's the direction that you're going to see the personnel go in the future, but we just have to sit back and let that happen.
One more thing I wanted to ask you, I'm sorry, before we send you out is, should we start Malik Levis? And it seems like you think they will. How long or how short should his leash be? If you think if he looks anything like he does like he did when we put him in against the Ravens, do you think we need to get Levis a 9 to 10 game sample size to see what we have, leading into, next year?
I think when you take a guy in the second round, you're not expecting to start him right away. And so it may be like a Desmond Ridder situation last year where you're going to start him at the end of the year and try to get a good evaluation, give him 4 or 5 games and see what happens if the season's lost at that point. Otherwise, yeah, I would personally go Willis. I know that everybody's acknowledged in the building that he's taken a step this year. I mean, when you watched him in the preseason, he was processing a little bit better. He looked like he was more comfortable in the offense. And they had some nice little play designs that were set up for him at times too. So I really do. I think that they're going to have to go with Willis personally, and it's just because this is a guy who's had another year in the system. He's been there all at training camp. He hasn't missed time like Levis has, and I think that right now you can do a little bit more with him, and you just continue to let Levis develop, let him adjust to the level. Let him get his feet wet, at times when you have to, which may be the end of the season. But that's what I would do. I think that's what they're probably going to go with. I know for a fact they do think that he did take a step. I just don't know how happy they are with the step that it was.
Yeah. Listen, John, we appreciate you coming on. We could pick your brain all night about quarterbacks. I feel like we're going to have you on very soon again because I don't see Ryan Tannehill being the quarterback, even though Mike Vrabel says if he's healthy, he's going to be the quarterback. I think they're going to ride with the young guns for the rest of the way. So maybe we can break down their tape with you as well. Just before we let you go, where can we find your work? I know you're a part of the team. We welcomed you on the team. We love that you're on the team. So shout us where we can find your work.
Yeah, obviously, like right here, Sick Podcast, man. We do a great job. It's been a blessing coming on here, guys, and I know that we got the big guns back there in the studios. I like to call them because we got Sammy back there running it and AC and all them. I've been so impressed with just the way that this place is run.
Very easy to
and
work
I'm
with.
excited. Yeah, excited. But yeah, pretty much anything that I do goes up on X, Twitter, whatever you still refer to it as. At Draft Vogels where you can follow me, and that's where you can see all the stuff. I'll add you one last note about Tannehill, and I think this is the reason why they'll go with him if he plays. It's the money. It's the money deal. You're paying him too much money to sit, and I think that's probably an ownership push that's saying, hey, we got to play him. Let's ride him out. We can get out of his contract next year, and I think that's what you're going to see.
Appreciate it, man. Our draft expert, Mr. Draft Vogel. Thank you very much, buddy. We'll
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Have a good one.
All right, Mr. John Vogel, you know where you can find him, Draft Vogel. He's with the Sick Podcast team. He has everything, all draft questions. Shout him out on X and Twitter. Then before we get involved with the Ravens game, you want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor?
Sure. Let's shout out DraftKings. This season's going strong, fellas. We're on week 7. And DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking up new customers with an offer that's even stronger. Bet $5 on any game this week to score $200 instantly in bonus bets. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of a sweetener of every game this year.
Football's more fun when you're in the action, so download the app now and sign up with code 6sports. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, with code 6sports. The crown is yours, guys and gals. So that's the good part. We talked about Ryan Tannehill. We talked about Malik Willis. We talked about Will Levis. The bad part was I had to watch on my phone the Ravens game in London because I had to go pumpkin picking last minute. Was not very happy about it, but it was for the kids, so it is what it is. But watching you guys, I had to watch you guys, post game and give my reactions because I needed to vent. Besides the morons that are telling me, "Oh, what happened to your team today?" I bet them. I said, it's your loss, idiot. You should have never did it anyway. But to break down that game, it was exactly what we were talking about last week when it was me and Sal and Melissa Kim from the Ravens we had on with her. The Titans don't know how to attack down the field again. Ryan Tannehill sits in the pocket. Sal was screaming live that he can't walk, with the ankle. Why didn't they pull him out earlier? I mean, it's just a mess. Again, 16 points. I almost called it. I had a score in 13 in my predictions. I said 24-13, so I was off by this much. I mean, this team is so predictable. It's really in disarray right now, especially on the defensive side of the ball. There's no accountability. Even Jeffrey Simmons is saying it. And like I said before, when we got on the podcast, I saw a lot of the film. I rewatched the film, and all the route concepts on the offensive coordinator and Tim Kelly, there's 3 receivers in every fucking – I know I don't curse a lot, but I get so animated with this. When I see this, there's 3 wide receivers all the time in the same spot. How about crossing your wide receivers, mixing everything up with the cornerbacks? Why are you progressing your quarterback with one over the top, one in the – you're bringing the defenders and the cornerbacks and safeties all together. So it's a jumbled mess. No wonder why our quarterbacks are throwing in triple and double coverages all the time, because the receivers are in the same spot with them with the cornerbacks and safeties. So I mean, it's just a huge mess, and it just drives me crazy, especially now that we're 2-4 going into the bye, and then we're coming home. We don't know what's going to happen at quarterback now, because we think that it's going to be Will Levis. We think it's going to be Malik Willis. We think that they're going to be the saviors of the franchise. You better hope so, because if Ryan Tannehill doesn't go for the rest of the year, which I kind of I kind of see the writing on the wall, and I'm over it with Ryan Tannehill. I said it to you guys when you guys
We're at 0%.
We're at 0%. I said it to you guys on the podcast. I want to see what the young guys have, because if we don't have anything with these young guys, and like Draft Vogel said, the quarterback, I mean, not the quarterback, the facility doesn't see much in Will Levis. I mean, not Will Levis, Malik Willis. They're tending towards Will Levis because it is a Rand guy. Rand moved up in the draft to get him in the second round. And Mike Vrabel's been saying that he's taken huge strides since the beginning of the year. So in my personal opinion, I think going into Atlanta, I think we're going to be going with Will Levis just to see what he has. To me, you can't have a second-year guy and Malik Willis get sacked 4 times in a game on 4 drives. And you're supposed to be mobile. You can't do that. So, I mean, just give me your take. I mean, I've seen some of it online. I mean, I just want your opinion on this because I don't know where I'm at right now. You see Rob Gronkowski saying that, the best thing for the trade deadline is for the Patriots to get, a mix of quarterbacks too. Why don't they go after a guy like Malik Willis? Why is Rob Gronkowski saying anything about the Patriots? If he has any inkling on that, is he a Vrabel guy? Is he a Belichick guy? Does he know something might happen? Are the Patriots looking to go for a quarterback for a change? Are you going to try to, I personally, I would take a 4th or a 5th for Malik Willis right now. If the Patriots give it to me and just hand the reins over right now to Will Levis. If that's Rand's guy, give me a sample size, a 10-game sample size of Will Levis to see what we have for the future. Because if not, this is the only quarterback right here that is the legend in Steve McNair. Because I'm running off a building if we don't have a quarterback for the future.
Yeah, I mean, I want you to take a deep breath there. I don't know how you breathe during that rant, but
that was you 10 minutes ago. I mean, last podcast when you had the 10-minute rant.
I tend to agree with you more than our buddy Vogel. I think you can say what you want. The game plan wasn't built for him. You're playing him at a different, game plan system, whatever. That being said, you have to have a little bit of, innate ability to avoid sacks, and especially when that's what your game's supposed to be predicated off of. It was just ugly. There was no sense of awareness, really. He tried to do way too much. Maybe he was pressing, and that's why, he was just trying to get us, make a play for us. That being said, I mean, 4 sacks in what? It was like less than a quarter, it seemed like. Maybe a little more than a quarter. I don't know. A full quarter. Whatever it was, he did not look like the Malik in the preseason where, he made some plays for us. Listen, we got down to the 1-yard line. We could have had an onside kick away from maybe having a chance in that wild game. But, yeah, I mean, listen, Vogel thinks we're going to start him. If they do, I think the leash is extremely short.
What's that, halftime?
If it's that bad, if he has multiple turnovers and – you're close to halftime, beginning of the second half, then sure. I don't want to see him much longer than that should he play that bad. I would love nothing more than Rand Carthon to march out Will Levis in the Oilers threads for his first game after the bye. I think that'd be a cool move for the rookie. Fan base should be there. And even if they're not excited for the team, they're excited for that jersey reveal. We'll be wearing those threads for the first time in a long time. I don't know with this coaching staff. If it was up to me, I'd start Levis and give him, at this point it'd be 10 games you'd be giving him almost. So if they want to show some loyalty and respect to Malik Willis, I get it. You drafted him last year, even though he's not a Carthon guy, he was a J-Rob guy. If you want to give him a fair shake, then sure. But I would not fault him at all. I'm not saying you got to trade him like you said, although I wouldn't be opposed to it. But you traded up for this kid in the second round. The writing's on the wall. Another thing I disagree with Vogel is, I don't care if we're paying Tannehill $100 million. His play has not, shown us that he's, he warrants getting paid that money. So why even pay him? Why even play him? Put him on the bench, pay him. I don't care. You're going to pay him for 10 more games. His deal is up. You just can't put him in there right now. It's just been I don't want to go on a rant like you just did. I'm just over him like you are. I've been at 0% for a while. I think if we turn back to him, I don't understand what his blind loyalty is towards him. I think that would frustrate a lot of fans and make Mike Vrabel's hot seat even hotter, at least from a fan perspective. Who knows the conversations him or Rand are having, but I don't care what you're paying him. He has not shown us anything to deserve, being paid that amount of money for a long time. I don't care. Bench him. See what you have in these young kids. You have a guy from the third round, a guy from the second round the last 2 years. We've been clamoring about it for a month now. Let's see what they got. There's 11 games left. You want to give Willis a few games as a fair shake? Sure. Evaluate him after 3-4 games. Then turn it over to Levis for 9-10 games. Let's see what he has. 8 games. And if you suck and you end up picking top 5, but you like Levis, maybe you get another lineman and then go after, T. Higgins in free agency. Or if you don't think any quarterback's the guy and you're picking top 5, well, now's your year to go get, your actual guy. Because in reality, that would mean Willis and Tannehill are gone if we go quarterback again. You'd be going in the next year with the guy you drafted, and then Will Levis is the guy you're going to compete with or be your number 2, whatever. But, I'm done with Tannehill. There's nothing left to see. Unless we win if we win in spite of Will Levis, like if it's a defensive performance and Levis doesn't play well, Willis. If we win in spite of Willis because of our defense, whatever, Henry, Spears, if we win in spite of Willis, I could see them turning back to Tannehill the following week. If we're 3-4 and they feel like
on a short week with Pittsburgh.
I didn't know we were playing Pittsburgh on a short week. I still wouldn't be surprised though if we win games in spite of. You get what I'm saying though?
Yeah,
if we win in spite of him and we keep our head above water and we're 3-4, 4-5, and Tannehill's healthy, I could see maybe them going back to him. Then I think that would be fair. Even still, I'm done with him. I got the white flag from when I was in Tennessee. I'm waving it. I'm done with Tannehill. Put these young guys in, and that's that. We both did how to put a rant in for Sal because one of his rants is worth 2 of ours, so we each had to get a rant in.
He can't stand. He's got one leg. He can't stand. I loved it. So shout out our boy Sal. I had to do that for him. But one thing that was said, well, you said to keep our head above water, bro. We have the cinder block tied to our foot, and we're at the edge of the boat right now with this team because the way things are shaking up, the locker room doesn't seem so tight. Taylor Lewan said he goes on Kay Adams on Kay Adams' new show with FanDuel TV, and he says that you got to cut the grass to find the snakes. I mean, right then and there's a lot of stuff going on in that locker room that we don't know about. So this bye comes at a perfect time to figure out. Mike Vrabel trying to figure out what the hell's going on with this team. Does he make a trade? Is it Christian Fulton? Is he going to trade one of these aging contracts with KB or Derrick Henry? I don't personally see it. Or Autry or something. I mean, I personally don't see it, but there's one thing that I kind of agreed with John, and he said that Vrabel is an outstanding coach. I personally think he is. I'm not one of those I may have said it, but I'm not in the heat of the moment, but I'm not one of those guys that say, hey, we need to fire Vrabel right now. It's Vrabel's fault.
Not yet.
Not yet. It is. I understand it is a transition year with Rand Carthon at the helm, and we did inherit a lot. And John Robinson, he stoned us to death with this team, so we're reaping the benefits right now. And especially Rand is from the shit drafting. And he was trying to bring in some guys with not much capital in free agency, but now he's got the $94 million next year. So even if we do kind of shit the bed this year and let's say, we have the third easiest schedule going the rest of the way, but that doesn't say much because we can't get in the end zone. The red zone. Once the 20 comes, it's a brick wall for us right now, so we can't get in the end zone. But hypothetically speaking, let's just say we have the third easiest schedule with the remaining games left. If we have 2 wins right now, if we have 4 more wins, that puts us at 6 wins on the season. That could possibly get us into the top 10 in the draft this year. There is hella talent. Whether it's offensive tackles, Brock Bowers out of Georgia, the tight end who can do anything. You have Marvin Harrison Jr., who's probably going to go 3, but who knows? Okay, and you have a ton of quarterbacks. There's a ton of prospects in this year's draft if we were inside the top 10. So if we do win 6 games, I'm okay with it because I know with the future, with the $94 million and the early draft, that Rand Carthon could probably hit it out of the park next offseason. So that's the only thing that's keeping me sane right now. If this season goes to shit, which it halfway is, like I said, right now, the string is tied with the cinder block to our foot, and we're at the edge of the boat. So that's that right now.
Yeah, and so was AJ Soprano, but he left that rope a little too long. And
I knew. Listen, I threw that up to you. I was waiting for you to say something.
And I yammed it. That's teamwork. That's synergy, whatever they call it in the biz. But yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not done with him yet either. I love him. He did a lot for this franchise. He's been dealt a shit hand, with the injuries, but there's some things you'd like him to take responsibility for. I'm sure he's been on board with a lot of these hires. We've gone in-house a lot. His stubbornness is getting frustrating, especially when it comes to his loyalty to Tannehill. I think we're all over it. And, it is a transition year, but I think we're all a little more excited at the beginning of the year than we should have been with D-Hop. But listen, crazier things have happened. Let's just say, one of these young kids comes in and we keep our head above water and we sneak. That'd be best case, in my opinion, is maybe not make the playoffs, but go, like you said, 6-11 and know that Levis is the guy. And then we can go get Bowers, go get the tackle from Notre Dame, and then spend money in free agency and turn it around in a year. But we can't do any of that until we know who we have at the quarterback position. Tannehill is not going to be here next year. So sooner rather than later, this year, you have to figure out what at least one of these guys has. I mean, come on, help us out a little bit. So listen, we're not over Vrabel. We're just frustrated with them right now. But that being said, it's a much needed bye week, like you said earlier in the show. We wish Sal nothing but the best. Get better. Take your Dayquil, your NyQuil, your Mucinex, your turmeric, Sal. I'm a big turmeric guy. I don't get sick often.
Turmeric and the black pepper to activate.
Yeah, there. Little physiology for me.
You
right
like
there.
that?
Yeah. Talk dirty to me. Anyway, another great show. Shout out Draft Vogel for coming on. He's a part of our team at the Sick Podcast. Go to him for all things draft, and go to DraftKings for all things betting.
Before you sign us out, I just want to rub this in a little bit to the guys backstage and to you and Sal when you're listening to the podcast. I will be in Turks and Caicos in a pool watching the next 2 games on my iPad. So you guys enjoy, but I am definitely going to try to come on the podcast while I'm there. So I'm not going to
I've seen how you can down beer. If you've had too many of them, you're better off maybe, not tarnishing your reputation.
No. I want to be there, and I need to be on the podcast, especially after that Atlanta game. Whether win or lose, you need my reactions with the clean new Oiler gear, and hopefully it comes out. And Will Levis, a come from behind victory, that would be insane. I would have to come on the podcast if that's the case.
Yeah. Well, good luck with that one, but enjoy Turks and Caicos whenever you leave. Bring your sunscreen. You're a little more fair skinned than myself, but hey, we all can't be blessed with the beautiful olive skin. Anyways, great show. Great to be back. One more thing I got to add is go Phils. We're 2 wins away from the World Series. Other than that, though, tighten up. Sammy, send me out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Talking Titans on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.